Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to show you how I grew my tomato plants from some Tesco's cherry tomatoes. Right, before we get started, I need to put out this disclaimer. All the professional gardeners are going to tell you that what I'm about to show you is wrong, and they are correct. However, what I'm going to show you is my story and how I've grown my tomatoes. Now, what I will say is when you buy cherry tomatoes from a supermarket, those tomatoes are hybrids. So 9 times out of 10, when you're using those seeds, there's essentially a genetic lottery. You could grow from seed these plants and still not get the same fruit that you have just eaten from that same packet. That for me is part of the excitement. So I have got absolutely no idea what these tomatoes are going to taste like, if they're even going to bloom, if they're going to be edible. But for me, it's not really about that final harvest with this particular crop. In order to supplement that, I already bought some tomato plants, so I know that I'm going to be able to get some fruit to harvest later on in the year. However, these plants that I'm growing now is going to be potluck. Anyway, let me get straight into it. First things first, I'm going to start off by grabbing a ratchet container and putting some soil in there. Now it is pretty dry, so I'm just going to pre-moisten that soil. Then I've got myself a bowl with some water, and then I've got a sieve and I've put that sieve into the bowl. I make a slight incision in the tomato and then squeeze out some of the seeds, and then using the knife scrape out the rest of the seeds. Now the rest of the tomato I am going to keep, and I'm going to use that in my salad later on this evening. Now fresh tomato seeds come in a little gel, and that gel is full of chemicals that actually prevent the seeds from germinating. So what we need to do is scrape off some of that gel. A little bit of water helps to loosen it up. So what I'm doing is using a spoon to scrape the seeds along the sides of the sieve, just to help gently coax off that gel. Once I'm satisfied, I just use the spoon to scoop up some of the seeds and then quite liberally just lay them on top of the soil. I use a spoon to separate the seeds, and then I'm going to grab some extra soil and then place that on top of the seeds. Then I'll give it another spray of water. I'll write up a label, and then I use some cling film just to cover up the container. Now I left them in the greenhouse, and about a month or so later you can see the growth from the tomatoes in these ratchet containers.
We went into a heat wave, and these guys absolutely fried in my little mini greenhouse. It's fine, they can still be rescued. So when it comes to tomatoes, you just need to plant them really deep.
Once your plant gets to about this size, you can then plant it in a bigger container. Now tomatoes are going to need a pretty large container, so it's recommended for balcony gardeners to use 5-gallon containers. I am just using whatever I can find, so for me that happens to be my 20-litre yellow containers. Tomatoes are pretty cool. All of those white bumps are points where actually roots will grow from. The white bumps are nodules, and then from those nodules roots will form. If you look closely at the stem, you'll also see hairs. Now each one of these hairs can turn into roots as well once buried in the soil. Now I'm going to plant this into one of my yellow containers, but first I'm just going to pluck off any branches to make sure that I've got a nice long stem, just so that I can essentially double the roots on this one plant. These are a type of determinate tomatoes. They're a bush variety, so this plant probably won't get any bigger than this. As you can see, it's got a whole load of fruit on it. Once that fruit has dropped, that's it, this plant will be finished. Whereas my other variety of tomatoes, those cherry tomatoes, they will continuously grow. And when I say grow, I mean grow. All of the yellow flowers will eventually become fruit. And speaking of, Tracy and her friends have already been hard at work pollinating for me. Now, this guy is getting pretty huge, but I have done absolutely no pruning to this plant whatsoever. So the yield that this plant is going to be producing is not the best. In my next video, I'm going to show you how to prune your tomato plants so that you can get the best yield from your tomato. I'll see you again soon. Bye!